Hello everybody, I'm Tom, and you are watching me watch YouTube. So, today, or earlier today, Path of Exile released their kind of prelude video to the next league in Path of Exile. I was watching it, I got 21 seconds into it. I'm watching it on, I wasn't live because I think it launched at 6 AM my time, I wasn't up yet. But the YouTube video is now up. I got 21 seconds into this, and I see currency trade market, which interests me. I have a feeling that this could be reaction worthy. So I'm going to go back to the start, and we're going to watch it from the start. I'm just going to record my reaction. Because I have a feeling there's going to be some good shit in this.
Hi, I'm Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games.
Hi, Chris.
Welcome to GGG Live. Today, we're going to show you an exclusive reveal of Path of Exile Settlers of Kalguur, which launches next week on July 26th. Twitch drops are enabled on today's
Kind of annoyed I
live
missed
stream,
this,
so make sure you
but,
follow
you know,
the instructions
whatever.
below in order to claim your Corsair back attachment. In today's stream, we will take you on a deep dive into the new Settlers of Kalguur Challenge League. We'll cover the league mechanics, its new and revised crafting systems, a new trade market system for currency, some sweeping balance improvements including 2 Ascendancy class changes, endgame improvements, some further additions to the campaign, and some quality of life features. We'll then talk about our console native port releases and the features that come alongside them. Finally, we'll show you our new supporter packs, ending with a live Q&A session where Ziggy D will ask Path of Exile's game director Mark your questions from Twitch chat. After the live stream, we'll drop the full patch notes. I'll hand over to Mark now to introduce the new league.
I'm all interested in
innovative
this.
with the content in this league, and I'm really excited to see what everyone thinks. So let's just get right into it with the trailer for Path of Exile, Settlers of Kalguur.
I don't understand how they can't... How are they not continuously saying Settlers of Catan whenever they do this? That's what goes through my head every time they start saying it.
Rayclast is a cursed land. You'd have to be mad to settle here. And yet... Welcome to King's March! It's not much yet, but with your help, we can erect the greatest
Fucking-
city Rayclast has ever seen.
City Sim.
We'll need resources
Expedition portal. I guess
and savvy planning.
Kalguurese, these are the... What is this? Building ships. The Kalguurese people, they are the Expedition League guys, right? Like Tannig and... Gwyneth and Tujin and shit, right?
Soon we'll attract settlers, craftsmen, fortune seekers,
Recombination I saw there.
and of course, pirates.
Ha! Pirates. I love the music, by the way. New bosses
But
there. What
if
is this? Harbor map. So this looks similar to the expedition map, kind of. And then we have, what, ships going out and then coming back with resources? Real-time kind of ship mechanic? Interesting. So you're like shipping things out and hoping they don't get done by pirates would be my assumption? And then you fight the pirates when inevitably they do get struck by pirates? Interesting.
Prevail. Our ships will be heavy with gold. We hope to achieve the impossible. We hope to build a home.
Yeah. These are the expedition dudes, right? I don't see Tujin there, but I see the other ones. Respec with gold. Okay. When he said our ships are coming back full of gold, I didn't think of it as, like, gold. I thought of it as, like, the mineral. This may seem weird to people who don't play POE, but gold is not a resource in POE, at least not until now. They were talking about doing this with POE 2, but I guess they're trying in POE 1 first. So you can respec with gold. I wonder how much gold you get, I guess. It's weird because I have no idea how to feel about this because I don't know what the gold currency is, despite this game being over a decade old. What the fuck? So respecing is like just viable now. Oh, fuck me. currency exchange market. I want 5 exalted orbs for 1 div. Oh, and because you've got gold now, you can do that because you can have a gold sink for it. What the fuck? And it gives you the market ratio in-game. Oh, I'm happy. I'm so happy. Warden Ascendancy class. I've never really played Warden, so... Wait, is that a new Ascendancy class? I don't even remember Warden. I don't know. I've very rarely played this. I've never done this Ascendancy, so I have no idea. Gladiator rework? Okay. Melee rebalance. Endgame improvements. I'm really interested how they do... What? More shit. Too much shit. They'll explain it, I'm sure. I'm really interested what they're going to do with, Melee. What is it, July 26th? Nice.
In Path of
Before he goes on, the one thing I'll say about Melee and my predictions for it, the problem that PoE has with Melee builds is the fact that when you're in something's face meleeing it, it's way harder to dodge attacks than if you're at range, right? And in PoE, you go from fully alive to fully dead in 1 or 2 hits from an enemy. So playing ranged is always better because it's easier to dodge the attacks, right? So you always want to be dodging. So the only way I can see them making melee work is somehow adding a defensive layer so that you're not 1 or 2 shot by a boss or by a bunch of ads. The problem is you've got to somehow give that defensive layer to melee without also giving it to range, because if you give it to range is still better. It's easier to dodge and you have a defensive layer, so if you fuck up, you're still fine, right? So you somehow need to get a defensive layer to melee builds without also giving it to range builds. Otherwise, range builds just get even better, you know what I mean? So I'm really interested to see how they've done melee rework, to be honest.
Exile Settlers of Kalguur, you will encounter some familiar faces from the Expedition League. Danig, Rog, Tujin, and Gwenin are Kalguuran people who are trying to establish trade between Rayclast and their homeland. They have recruited many curious characters from Rayclast, including some you may recognize, but are also seeking help of a powerful exile, like yourself.
Makes sense.
You will first encounter Johan, the King's Hand and Lion Eye's Watch. He's there recruiting workers, traders, and exiles. Johan, under the command of the King of Kalguur, has been sent here to build a new city called King's March, which intends to become the hub of commerce between Rayclast and Kalguur.
Okay.
Soon, he will bring you to the planned site for King's March, which you'll notice has humble beginnings as just a tavern in a field.
Cool.
But with your help, it won't stay like this for long.
City builder? I like it.
It takes a lot to build a town. The Kalguurans will ask you to seek out resources that can be used to begin construction. On your adventures, you might find minerals such as crimson iron, which are veins of iron that have been overrun with corruption, spawning dangerous foes when you approach.
This makes sense.
Or perhaps orichalcum,
Oh, cool.
which you will
Different
have to
types.
liberate from the demons worshipping it. Petrified amber attracts mindless, blighted enemies. While bismuth has a strong affinity to the elements and causes the area to become unstable.
That's fucking cool.
If you're lucky, you might find vericium, a material as valuable as it is dangerous, and guarded by very powerful foes. Once you defeat these monsters, the deposit will automatically be tagged for mining. But first, we need to get someone to do the hard labor. This is of course a trade expedition and nothing is free. Miners, along with other workers that the Kalguurans have hired, must be paid in cold hard gold, which you'll notice is now dropping throughout Rayclast. You will have control about who gets hired into your enterprise. Once you have accumulated some gold, head to the town and talk to the recruiter, Rolf. He's been busy tracking down hardy folk across Rayclast who are looking for work. You'll notice each person has their specialties and a wage cost. It'll be up to you to hire and fire as you please. Over the course of the league, you'll be searching for your perfect employees for each job. Once you have them, you'll have to keep them paid, safe, and alive, which we'll get into later.
Okay.
Here we have a prospect who has a specialty in mining. We'll start with that so we can begin to retrieve some of those resources we were talking about earlier. Let's go find some ore and put our miner to use. Oh, we've found a vein of orichalcum ore. It's guarded by dangerous demons worshipping a strange shrine. The shrine buffs the demons, giving them power, but once you defeat them, you can seize that power for yourself. After that, we can tag the ore, and our mining specialist will get to work. Soon, we encounter a few more deposits, each with a different dangerous encounter. After you have tagged the mineral veins, your miners will get to work collecting resources in real time. They might take a while, but will continue whether you are logged in or not. The work can be sped up by hiring more or better miners, and by upgrading the mining station back in Kingsmarch to equip them with advanced pickaxes.
Cool, makes sense.
Alright, some time has passed and our miners have been able to get the resources back to town. We've also managed to collect some more gold too. We can now upgrade the town and build new structures. There's plenty of options, we just need to decide where to start. I think we'll start with the tavern, the beating heart of Kingsmarch. It can be upgraded instantly to improve the recruiter's prospects. And you can find various important NPCs relaxing here. Next, we'll upgrade our mining station. You can upgrade this to improve the efficiency of your miners and allocate our newly hired workers to mining. You will eventually need a smelter, where you can send your ore to turn into more valuable bars. Then we have the disenchanter, where you can bring your magic, rare, or unique items to be added to a queue to be disenchanted over time.
What is disenchant?
The items will be broken down into thaumaturgic dust, a new resource used for crafting and shipping. We'll get more into that later.
Interesting.
And of course, a town needs food. You could invest in farming, where you can select crops to grow and harvest. But don't worry, you won't be manually watering anything.
That's good. It would be annoying if it was
delegation.
Yeah, exactly.
With all these resources piling up, there will be excess that we can spend. Let's talk about rewards in Settlers of Kalguur. Eventually you can build a harbour and establish shipping routes between a number of different Kalguuran and Karui ports for trade. You'll be able to pile your acquired resources onto these ships and send them to a port of your choosing, where your traders will haggle for the best deals. Each port will return specific rewards based on what you send them. They accept all types of resources, but will have a preferred type that they'll currently pay more for.
That makes sense.
And you'll want to get onto this, because eventually you could be bringing in shipments like this.
What? I mean, eventually, he said, but what the fuck? Instilling orbs, chaos orbs, unset rings, interestingly. Alps. Okay. I see no div in here, so I'm less excited. Although the items are also nice. Interesting. That's a lot of rewards, though, for essentially... I mean... Okay. 2 pages worth? 6 div, 2 exalt? Oh, Nelly! Why is there a discard all button? Who would discard that?
Or even this.
Bunch of weapons and armor. That's quite a few scarabs. And quite a lot of chaos. Jesus.
Today, we're going to trade with Kalguur. You'll notice that as we send more resources, this risk meter creeps up.
Yeah,
Much
makes
like
sense.
the dangers on the shores of Reklast, there are dangers out at sea. Monsters, pirates, environmental hazards. You'll want to try keep your shipment safe. You can do this by hiring workers that specialize in shipping. The more of them you add to the ship, the less risk there will be. Like this gentleman, who's famous for fending off even the most dangerous of pirates.
which allows you
Now
to
let's
send
get
more
that
shit,
shipment
right?
going, and we'll continue exploring Rayclast while we wait for its return. This is the first Path of Exile League that experiments with true, real-time mechanics. You can send out shipments, go and have lunch, and come back to your rewards. Many mechanics in the League work this way, so you'll always have some ongoing project or outcome to look forward to.
That is true, actually. Now I think about it. There's never been, like, true in-game time mechanics in PoE, which is interesting. I'm undecided whether I like them or not. We'll see.
When your shipment has returned, or met its demise, you'll get notified, and at your leisure you can return to the town to collect your rewards. Our shipment returned safely, so let's go see what we got. Ooh, they've sent us a unique item alongside our rewards.
Inda's Stand. 44 life per second, 21 fire resistance, 21 cold. Gain ward instead of 50% of armor in invasion rating from equipped body armor. Interesting.
Perhaps hoping to secure us as a loyal customer for the future. Aside from shipping, the Kalguurans are big on their technology. They have hired Isla, a familiar face from the Heist League. She is an engineer who the Kalguurans have employed for a very exciting purpose. You're not the only one who understands how profitable running maps can be. Once at endgame, Isla can help you build a series of Kalguuran modified map devices. You can then put a queue of maps into them. If you've hired a few skilled Atlas runners, they will put themselves to work running those maps for you one after another.
What?
Look, more delegation. Once again, you'll be notified when the rewards are ready to be collected.
This is so cool.
You can put lots of maps in the queue, so don't feel obliged to go back there all the time.
Oh.
Be careful though. The difficulty of the map impacts the risk of your workers perishing.
95% chance of an Atlas runner to be permanently killed in this map. I mean, I guess that makes sense. Doing a corrupted tier 16, 95% chance. Oh, this is so cool though, because you always end up with way too many maps. And maps of, like, if there's always like a bunch of maps that are just on a shitty map that you don't want to run, right? But now, rather than like random rolling them and hoping you get something good, you can just send out an NPC and you go do this shit map I don't want to do. Oh, that's so good. It's not something I ever thought about, but now it's something I'm really glad is there and I hope they never get rid of.
Try to pick your best workers, or perhaps just ones you don't like. Consider the difficulty too. Sometimes it's better to just run it yourself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You'll see there are many benefits to having a whole-ass town at your fingertips. Let's talk about crafting services. You should definitely consider building a runesmithing table. This is operated by Danig himself,
Makes sense.
using powerful Kalguuran blacksmithing arts. He can engrave runic magic onto your weapons using runes. There are many rune types and combinations.
Plenty is a matter of perspective. Can be used for runesmithing weapons at the King's March blacksmith. Okay.
To choose from.
Tell me much.
And you can unlock new crafts that can be applied to your weapons as enchantments. Our design intention here is to take powerful effects you would usually...
Sorry to keep cutting Mark off, but adds a certain amount of damage to fire damage, adds cold lightning. Socket of Vile skills have 100% reduced soul gain prevention duration. Interesting. Trying to buff Vile skills, I guess, because no one really uses them anymore. Trigger a socketed fire spell on hit with a 0.25% second cooldown. Huh. And you can turn it 100% elemental. Interesting.
we only find on unique items. Like this modifier, which you might recognize from Doomfletcher's Prism. Danig can apply it to your two-hand maces.
That's
There are
cool.
over 100 different special
Seems additional
crafting
too, right?
outcomes, ranging from ones very easily applied to very difficult. The rune
Minions
types
deal
can
more
be
damage,
acquired
that's cool.
through trade with Kalguur, or defeating powerful bosses. The Kalguuran tech benefits don't end there. We're also bringing back a formerly overpowered crowd favorite, Recombination. Isla is trying to master this.
I
She
don't know what
just
this
needs
is.
you to help her with getting resources.
This is obviously from a league that I didn't play. Probably Expedition, I would imagine. I am a relatively new POE player. I started playing in Affliction. Well, I started playing properly in Affliction. I actually got to endgame in Affliction. So you have 2 Spirit Shields. Okay.
The system isn't as strong as it used to be, but it still allows you to combine 2 items together, hoping to get the best modifiers of each onto a single item.
Interesting. Okay. That seems nuts.
Between running a town, shipping, and exploring, you'll be collecting a lot of extra gold. It is now the primary resource for 2 huge new quality of life features that we are putting to test. Firstly, you can use gold to respec passive points. This is a feature from Path of Exile 2 that we've decided just makes sense to port back. The higher level you are,
So
the more
good.
expensive it gets.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the next one is absolutely massive. A currency trade market. The Kalguurans have recruited Faustus, another NPC from the Heist League. He allows you to asynchronously buy and sell currency and most other stackable items with other players without the nuisance of price fixes and people who never respond. All you need to
so
do is
good.
select what currency you want, say what you have, and your ideal ratio. It works kinda like a real-life stock market. Faustus will make the trade happen for you, so long as there is someone selling on the other end for the same rate or less. You'll be able to go back to blasting monsters while trusty Faustus does the dirty work. Notify
Right, so if I'm understanding this correctly, it's essentially just Nox Ass, right? So you put up, say you have 100 Chaos and you want a div, right? So you put up 100 Chaos and you say, I want a div. If there is a div up for sale for 100 Chaos, it just automatically gives it to you. If not, it puts your sale up there, and then when someone says, I want 100 Chaos for 1 div, it will auto do the trade. That makes perfect sense. It's, okay, that's perfect.
you when your currency is ready for collection. All you need to do is pay him a small amount of gold for his time.
Yep, and then there's a gold sink,
Cards
so it's
on the
not
table,
OP.
this is an experiment to see if this type of asynchronous trading has a place in future Path of Exile releases. We are very excited to see
I
how
hope
it
so.
goes.
I really
Now,
hope so.
given that Faustus is an expert in black market trade and shady deals, he also provides another service, offering items for gold. The items will generate with random rarity, and on
Gambler.
average the modifiers on them are better than normal. This can be a very nice way to get some targeted items during the campaign. For serious crafters, it can be a great starting point for making those elusive, specific in-game items,
Yeah, I
which
guess.
perhaps you could take to the runesmith afterwards. It's worth noting that you can invite Faustus to your hideout, where he will always be available for respecking, currency exchange, and black market items.
Makes sense.
As your town grows, it will attract more attention, good and bad. Settlers of Kalguur features 3 endgame bosses that will close in on your operations, wanting a piece of the pie. They might capture and ransom your
Fantastic.
workers, even your entire ships. You'll have to make some tough decisions. Will you take them on, or pay them off? One example of a boss is Sasan, the Bandit Lord. You won't stumble across this boss by accident. Instead, this unsavory character can come into your town at night and take your Atlas runners hostage, holding them for ransom. What happens
Interesting.
next is up to you. Perhaps you'll refuse to negotiate with bandits, leading to a fight to defeat Sasan and rescue your workers. If you're not up for the heroics, you might simply pay the ransom in gold. Or
50k, goddamn.
perhaps these workers were especially disappointing, and
Just
you'll just leave
abandon
them for
them.
dead, in true Ray class fashion.
They
They knew what they were signing up for, right?
Yeah, it's standard.
Of course, the heroics might be worth it for other reasons. These bosses can drop new unique items.
Zvalen. Guarded Tower Shield. Block spell damage, 136 ward. Negative 10 to maximum chance to block. Spell, chance to block unlucky. Trigger a socketed elemental spell on block. Interesting. Ward 2, that's not Energy Shield, right? It's like the specific weird one that comes from Expedition shit. I can't exactly remember how it works because I've never really fiddled around with it. I just know it exists on the Expedition gear you get.
In sum, Settlers of Kalguur is a very experimental league, with new mechanics that will completely change how you play the core game. We've been sitting on a lot of these ideas for a while and can't wait to share them with you. But there's a lot more to this expansion. Let's talk about balance. Well, we've finally rebalanced the Gladiator. It's been a long time coming. Like before, there are passive skills that allow you to invest in bleeding and block.
Let me just read all these. So we have the main fill here. Gain 50% base chance to block from equipped shields instead of the shield's value. Inherent bonuses from dual wielding and doubled. Interesting. Okay. Attack speed, chance to block, makes sense. Chance to block attack or spell damage is lucky if you've blocked recently. Okay, that makes sense. So if you block, you're more likely to block in the future. Again, attack speed and chance to bleed. Bleeding enemies you kill explode, dealing 20% of maximum life as physical damage. Bleeding you inflict is aggravated. Bleeding that has been aggravated deals higher damage as though the target was moving. Okay. Interesting.
We've designed new skills replacing some of the old ones. Like this, War of Attrition, which is very handy for long, sustained boss fights.
Deal 1% more damage with hits and ailments to rare and unique enemies for each second that they've been in your presence, up to a maximum of 100%. I mean, that's good. But, like, I feel like this could be 10,000%. I guess it's every second, right? So I guess if you've been fighting them... That doesn't seem high enough to be valuable. Because if the rare or unique you're fighting has so much health that you're fighting them for... If you have to fight them for 100 seconds... That's a long-ass time, man. I mean, I feel like either they're going to be weak enough that you're going to kill them way before you get anywhere close to doubling your damage, or they're going to be so tanking that doubling your damage is going to be next to nothing, and you've been fighting them for over a minute and a half, you know? I don't know, we'll see.
Further alongside the Gladiator theme, this new passive allows you to combine different weapon types while dual wielding to get a variety of powerful bonuses.
Yeah, that one makes sense.
For example, holding a dagger will give you more critical strike chance, while holding a mace gives you more area of effect. Of course, you could just use Varanastra for all weapon type bonuses.
The instant leech is actually interesting there. 20% of instant leech, I can speak, if you've got claws. I mean, it means you have to use claws, but, you know. It's interesting, nonetheless.
And finally, we have a new notable which allows you to invest in the newly added retaliation skills. These are active skills which require you to meet a certain condition in order to use them. Once you meet that condition, you can unleash devastation on your foes. Here we have Eviscerate, which requires you to have a shield. Or for those who like to dual wield, Sword Storm, which is great for obliterating bosses. Here we have the Divine Retribution skill. This one has the condition requiring you to block. You can then unleash a devastating spell, causing lightning bolts to strike the ground in an X shape around your target location, doing huge amounts of damage. And of course, in true Path of Exile fashion, there are many avenues to invest in these mechanics further.
Crush and Reply. Retaliation skills have a 50% increased stun duration on enemies. Retaliation skills fortify on melee hit. 30% increased damage. Gain 10 rage on hit with retaliation skills. And expert retaliation support. Supported retaliation skills have 40% more cooldown recovery rate. Supported skills become usable for 20% increased duration. Interesting.
On the passive tree, and a new support gem. You are able to increase the leeway duration after meeting the condition, reduce the cooldowns, or just increase their damage. The world's your oyster. The Gladiator wasn't the only ascendancy class we've changed. As we develop Path of Exile systems, we often find ourselves reusing mechanics, increasing their depth, and allowing more avenues to invest into them. As such, the Raider Ascendancy class found itself lacking, with many of its passives commonly available elsewhere. We want our Ascendancy classes to always feel like they're pushing the boundaries, allowing you to change your character in ways that are meaningful and ideally unique. As a result, we've straight up removed the Raider, rest in peace. And we've added a new class in its place, the Warden.
Right.
This class is largely inspired by its predecessor from the Affliction League, with a few changes.
Okay.
The Warden now focuses on elemental attacks, changing the behavior of shock,
I didn't read that.
enhances. The Warden now focuses on elemental attacks, changing the behavior.
Shocks from hits increase damage taken by 2%. You can apply up to 50 shocks for each enemy. Okay. So you can double your damage by shocking, that makes sense.
Behavior of shock, enhancing freeze,
Enemies you freeze remain frozen for at least 2 seconds. Freezing hits that do not freeze apply Hoarfrost. Freeze lowers enemy action speed to 0, preventing them from acting during CS based on cold damage. Hoarfrost increases freeze duration to enemies by 20% per stack. Freezing enemy removes all stacks of Hoarfrost from them. Hoarfrost lasts 10 seconds and refreshes the duration of existing Hoarfrost. Interesting.
and replacing Ignite with Scorch.
If you would ignite an enemy, you scorch them instead, and you can play additional scores for each enemy. Okay. That makes sense. Scorch was already in the game, but...
There's also a skill that allows you to go ballistic with your elemental damage, periodically.
Grants level 20 Unbound Avatar skill. Gain 1 Unbound Fury when you inflict an elemental ailment with a hit on an enemy. No more than once every 0.2 seconds for each type of ailment. Cannot gain Unbound Fury while unbound. Your hits always inflict freeze, shock, and ignite while unbound. 80% more elemental damage while unbound. Damn. Oh, there we go. I was trying to figure out from here how much Unbound Fury you need, but it's 100. Avatar requires 100 Unbound Fury to use and causes you to become unbound for 10 seconds. So every 100 that you can pull up, got a 0.2 second cooldown, so it's going to take you, at a minimum, 20 seconds? So it's pretty much if you're hitting stuff constantly, which POE pretty much are, so you're going to be saying like every 20 seconds you get 10 seconds worth of infinite abilities. Like your abilities just always freeze, shock, ignite. Sounds pretty good, honestly.
The class also grants Barkskin, which is a skill that can be used to
Cool.
mitigate physical damage from hits. After taking a number of hits, it increases your evasion, making it a great defensive choice. Finally, the last thing the Warden can specialize in is tinctures. These are an alternative to flasks
cool.
from the Affliction League. We're bringing them back with adjusted mechanics.
I didn't read any of these. Let me go back.
We're bringing them back
Tincture effects also apply to ranged weapon attacks.
with adjusted mechanics.
Tincture effects linger on you for half second per mana burn on you when the tincture was deactivated. To a maximum of 6 seconds. Tinctures applied to you have 30% less mana burn. Okay. An additional tincture. Okay.
Tinctures can be placed in your belt, replacing flasks. You can inherently only have one tincture active at a time, and it requires a melee weapon to use. While activated, they grant a powerful buff. They can drop as magic items, or be modified with currency to grant extra bonuses.
That makes sense.
Here is a prismatic tincture. This one increases elemental damage by 100% while active. You'll notice it has 2 extra effects. One is that it applies mana burn every second. Mana Burn is a
Interesting.
debuff that builds up while tinctures are active that causes you to lose mana, losing more mana for each stack. Tinctures also have a cooldown, so once you have disabled one, no other tincture can be enabled for a time. These changes make tincture use a more active and interesting choice than it was in Affliction. Both Mana Burn and the cooldown can be modified through modifiers on the tinctures or on the passive skill tree. Players will want to maximize their tincture uptime for sure. Here we have a couple other
So, if I'm getting this right, they're essentially balancing the tinctures. By one, you can only have one, or two if you get the passive point. And also they have mana burn seemingly on all of them, it seems. So either you need to be activating and deactivating them on cycle, or you need to get your mana regeneration up high enough that you completely counteract the tincture at max stacks, right? Assuming the mana burn has a max stack, but I assume it probably does.
tinctures. The Poisonberry tincture is excellent for poison builds. The Rosethorn tincture is the choice for those wanting to deal critical strikes. You might be wondering, with the removal of the Raider, where has the Frenzy Charge investment gone? We've added a Frenzy Charge passive skill to the Deadeye, replacing the Rupture passive skill. On top of Ascendancy classes, we have
I don't know enough about Ranger to comment on this, by the way, which is why I'm saying nothing.
revisited a number of core mechanics. This time taking pains to ensure easy access through the passive tree, skill gems, and simple items. We don't want all the powerful mechanics to be hidden behind layers of complexity. Let's just rapid fire through the key points. If you want more detail later, you can read the patch notes, which will be dropped after the livestream. Be sure to let us know what you think. There's a lot of changes, so be prepared for a bit of a shock to the system. I expect it will take several days for the dust to settle on this one. Firstly, we've made some drastic alterations to melee skills. Let me just rip this band-aid off. Melee totem skill gems have been removed.
Cool. No
We're
shit.
trying to adopt a philosophy with melee going forward that, unlike other builds, it will be far less oriented around set and forget gameplay. You will deal the damage yourself, and you should be rewarded for doing so. To compensate, we have buffed the damage on almost every single melee skill. As the majority of this damage growth comes from gem levels, we have also made them cost more mana as they level, but it's nothing like the mana costs on spells. Here are some examples of the damage and costs before and after. Heavy Strike has gone from dealing 313% attack damage at gem level 20 to a massive 552% attack.
Well, it's also gotten rid of the melee strike range and the knockback.
Attack damage. It's also worth noting it no longer knocks enemies back.
It's probably a good thing.
And Sweep has
Does
gone
more
from
damage,
dealing
right?
281% attack damage to now dealing 664% attack damage at gem level 20. These are just two examples, but the majority of melee skills are now dealing approximately 75% more damage at level 20. Of course, with melee comes close proximity combat, so you need some good defensive options. New base types with higher defensive values will now drop throughout the endgame. As you reach yellow, red, and purple maps, you can expect to find higher tier base types in each.
1,000 armor on a base.
For example, Val Regalia and Hubris Circlet are no longer the best in slot items for Energy Shield. There are new base types that surpass them. Combined with some quality changes, which we'll talk about soon, you can now get better items than ever before in these slots.
Interesting.
To
Okay.
compensate, we have reduced the amount of flat evasion and armor from the Grace and Determination auras. But overall, you're getting more
Okay.
defenses than before. On top of this, we have buffed life modifiers on magic and rare equipment. You can now get as high as 189 additional maximum life from a single modifier on body armors,
Fuck.
and more on other slots too. Kalm's Heart has also finally been restored to its former glory and once again grants plus 1000 to maximum life.
Nice. I like it.
I mentioned quality. Quality on weapons and armors is being changed to apply multiplicatively.
Oh.
In other words, weapons with full quality will give 20% more physical damage, and armor with full quality will have 20% more local defenses. For melee,
Nice.
this will mean a damage increase for almost all builds using physical damage attacks, and it will mean more evasion, armor, energy shield, and ward for all builds. Endurance charges no longer grant elemental resistances, but instead grant additional elemental damage reduction, making it multiplicative with resistances.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's
You can
fucking
now
sick.
get 4% per charge, alongside the existing 4% physical damage reduction. To compensate, we have made some changes to the Juggernaut, and various unique items like Eternal Damnation. You can get more maximum resistances from the tree, specifically around the Marauder class start. These of course can stack with the new elemental mitigation from endurance charges.
Interesting. Okay. So we're going to be way
On top of
tankier,
this,
just in
guilds
general.
can now roll maximum elemental resistances as modifiers.
Okay, that helps.
Since we're making elemental mitigation more accessible, we've heavily reduced accessibility to physical damage taken as chaos or elemental damage. Those stats are still around, but you should not expect to be getting full conversion anymore.
Okay.
All block passives have been buffed, so you can now more easily achieve block cap from just the passive tree. The Keystone Versatile Combatant has been improved to have less of a penalty to maximum block.
Negative 10 to maximum chance to block attack damage. Negative 10% to maximum chance to block spell. Plus 2% chance to block spell damage for each 1% overcap chance to block attack damage. Okay. Yeah, okay. That's fine.
A number of life leech passives have been buffed to generally allow for more acquisition of maximum leech rate for life. Vow Pact has been reinstated to its former glory for instant life leech, but only for melee. We've reworked
Interesting.
Flesh and Stone. Previously, this buff skill granted Maim and Blind, depending on the stance of our character. Now, while in Sand stance, the skill simply provides damage mitigation, becoming more effective the closer you are to enemies. While in Blood stance, enemies will take more physical damage the closer you are to them. This
Makes
skill
sense.
will now greatly favor melee or close range gameplay.
Yep.
Given we're doing a Kalguuran League, Ward has also received a bit of attention. There are new uniques that grant Ward, and the base restoration of Ward is now faster. To compensate, Olroth's Resolve has been nerfed, but Ward loop builds will still be possible.
I have no idea how
Anyway,
Ward works. I've
that
never
was
used it.
most of the purely defensive changes. Now let's look at some of the offensive and utility-based ones. There are more and better ways to deal with mana as an attacker on the southern hemisphere of the passive tree.
Cool. Needed.
Wands, daggers, scepters, claws, and staves now have higher critical strike chance values than ever. Wands can go as high as 10% without modifiers.
Okay.
Sandstorm Visage has been made rarer to compensate, instead of reducing its power.
Oh. Okay.
For you wand attackers, wands now have higher attack speed than ever to compensate for their low damage. Wand exclusive skills such as Power Siphon, Kinetic Bolt, and Kinetic Blast now have faster attack times. Impale passives have been revised and in general buffed. The buffs granted by Warcries are now simpler but more significant, and more universal to builds. They also now apply to allies by default. Banners have been reworked. Instead of having a reservation cost, they are now free. However, they don't grant a permanent buff. Banners now need to be placed for the effect to be active. However, once placed, they are far more powerful than before.
Okay.
Additionally, there are new ways to
We'll see.
prolong the effects,
I guess
and
they're
more ways
free.
to invest in them than ever before. Rage has been made more fundamental and discoverable. Rage is now multiplicative attack damage,
Ooh.
but no longer inherently grants attack speed or movement speed. It has a new cap, and you can find many new passive clusters that allow you to invest into the mechanic. The goal is to make Rage more powerful as a baseline, and less gated behind the use of specific unique items and ascendancy classes. Berserk has been nerfed, just so you're aware. We have changed how bleed works too. You can now find aggravated bleed on the passive tree. When applied, all bleeds on the enemy will deal damage as if the enemy is moving for the remainder of their duration. The skill Ensnaring Arrow no longer interacts with bleed, so no more will you have to apply bleeds and swap to a bow. You can now achieve the same result using aggravated bleed passives without the annoyance.
Cool,
Rupture
makes sense.
from the Deadeye has been turned into a support gem.
I can't remember what Rupture did. Let me read this.
Rupture from the
Critical strikes with supported skills that inflict bleeding also inflict rupture. Targets take 20% more damage from bleeding per rupture on them from supported skills. Bleeding expires 25% more quickly from rupture per rupture from supported skills on target. Okay.
Deadeye has been turned into a support gem. We've added the new Overexertion support gem, which highly favors slam builds.
Supports melee attacks skills which can be exerted. Cannot modify the skill of minions. Foul skills and the channeling skills cannot be exerted. Support attacks deal 12% more damage per each Warcry exerting them. Support attacks deal 10% more damage if exerted. Okay. Interesting.
Now, it's time to look at a hot topic, Magic Find. In the Settlers of Kalguur expansion, we are going to be removing item quantity bonuses from all character items. This will not affect existing items in standard leagues.
Okay.
Magic Find is intended to be another axis on your gear you can scale once you have achieved the power you want. With item quantity being only available on unique items, this meant if you wanted to get the most out of it, you had to be playing a very specific build.
Yeah.
We still want people to be able to invest into Magic Find, but now only through item rarity. This can be obtained on a number of rare item slots, and by a much larger number of builds. What about Ventor's Gamble, you might ask? Here it is now.
Let me actually read this.
What about
12% increase of rarity of items found, max life, rarity of items found, fire resistance, cold resistance, lightning resistance, increased mana reservation, efficiency of skills. I don't think it used to have that bottom line, because it used to have quant on there as well, right? I mean, Ventor's is... I mean, it's still probably good for rarity, right? Since you can't get quant on anything, it's not like you're going to replace this with anything if you want Magic Find. I don't know how I feel about this skill, about this change, but
Ventor's Gamble, you might ask?
it makes sense, to be honest.
Here it is now. This is one of the biggest balance patches we've ever done. I can't promise that existing builds will all be safe. Even we aren't able to predict all the outcomes here, nor have we even gone into every single change, just the major ones. I don't know, man. Balance is hard. But the sheer number of new, viable options is exciting, especially for melee. And we're determined to drag the game in a better direction. Be sure to read the patch notes after this, it's going to be a ruckus. In 3.24, we overhauled the in-game experience by introducing a new tier of maps and reworking scarabs.
Before we go on with this, I will say the patch notes, by the way, look nuts. I haven't read any of them yet, but before they released them, Path of Exile tweeted out like the word count of each of the sections of the patch notes. It is in total. Let me just say this. There's 10k for Delirium. Heist has 8k words. Echoes of Atlas has 11k. 12k for Ultimatum. 16k for Expedition. 29,000 words for Scourge. Siege of the Atlas has 17k, Sentinel has 5k, Lake of Kalandra 22k, Forbidden Sanctum 13k, Crucible 17k, Trial of Ascendance 11k, Affliction 14k, Necropolis 12k, Settlers of Kalguur 30,000. That is the biggest patch notes they've ever done, which is interesting to say the least. Literally the biggest patch note they have ever released. So, interesting.
We want to continue to improve these systems and introduce more exciting in-game content every league. 3.25 is no exception. Let's check out the myriad of changes coming in Settlers of Kalguur. First up, we are changing many scarabs. We won't go into too much detail here to avoid getting lost in the weeds.
Yeah, that
but
makes
here's
sense.
a few new ones.
Yeah, like Scarabs, they changed like everything last league, so it makes sense that there's some that they're going to need to rework just because it's had like a whole league of testing now. Unique monsters in area have 2 additional monster modifiers. Cool. 10% increase maps found in area for each map modifier affecting the area. That's actually pretty good. Divination cards which drop in area are stolen by the final map boss. Final map boss becomes more difficult and deals increased damage the more divination cards are stolen. Final map boss duplicates all stolen divination cards when defeated. That's really cool.
Be sure to check out the patch notes after this for more detail. We've also added an additional map device slot, which will be unlocked upon completing your first 10-way Maven encounter. This simply allows for more combinations of scarabs and maps, resulting in more difficulty and more rewards. This is on top of the existing additional slot that can be unlocked by completing your first tier 17 map.
That's actually nuts. So you're going to have 6 slots, which you unlock the normal way for the 5th one. Well, the old way for the 5th one, so you beat Maven and you unlock that. And then you have... Well, actually, no, the old way was like, you had to do... the fucking, whatchamacallit, maps. I can't remember the name of any of these leagues, forgive me. You had to do the big boss arena thing with all the bosses from that league. You know what I'm talking about. POE people know what I'm talking about. So they've put one behind Maven now, which makes sense because she's, you know, the map lady. And then you've got one after doing the tier 17. Okay.
There are now 6 map device slots in total. You might have seen our teaser, where we revealed we'll be adding new special encounters to the endgame. One such encounter is the Nameless Seer, lurking in tier 16 and 17 maps. This
Makes
NPC
sense.
will give you a selection of unique items, and you can pick one for free. In tier 16 maps, he now has an additional feature, where you can scry a map. This allows you to swap the divination card drops of the current map with another map on your atlas.
Cool.
Just one caveat. You cannot have the same map be in multiple swaps at the same time. If you want to undo your choice, you can use a scouring orb on either map on your atlas. We've also made some updates to a...
I'll go back like 5 seconds, but what's interesting here too is it means that I can actually look in-game and see where the divination cards drop rather than having to go to the external, like, was it divcards.io? I think I used a lot. So you can actually use him to actually see where all the divination cards are on the map too, which is useful. It's kind of weird that you couldn't do that in the first place, to be honest. But, yeah, interesting.
orb on either map on your atlas. We've also made some updates to a couple of leagues. Blight has been updated with some atlas passive skill changes.
Blight bosses in your maps have 10% chance to add an additional reward. One lane of blighting cannons in your maps is guarded only by blight bosses. Okay. Varieties of items contained in 3 blight chests in your map are lucky. Blight chests in your map have a 20% chance to be openable again. I quite enjoyed Blight. The one problem I have with Blight, I played it a bit last league, and it's the first time I've actually fucked around with Blight. The one problem I have with it is my computer's not good enough to run Blight. I have to put my entire game down to like 480p, play the Blight map, then put it back up again. Because it's, whew, there's a lot of shit in Blight.
And double anointed amulets can now drop in Blight Ravage maps.
Oh, that's cool.
We've also introduced a new type of oil that can only drop from Blighted and Blight Ravage maps. Ritual has also been updated. You can now find one new and many reworked base types, new unique items,
Cool. I should read all these, but
corpses you
It's
can
fine.
use to raise as specters,
cool.
and occasionally a fragment, granting access to the King in the Mist's boss fight from
Oh,
the
cool.
Affliction League.
That's sick.
He will drop a number of unique items that were familiar from the League, but not that which was taken, as it is now that which was taken away.
Yeah,
However,
fair
he
enough,
now
I
drops
guess.
a different modular jewel that you might recognize from the Necropolis League.
Oh, right. I see. Okay. That makes sense.
In Tier 16 and Tier 17 maps, you can now encounter the Wildwood, also from the Affliction League. In case you
Interesting.
missed it, the Wildwood is a mysterious forest fraught with danger. In the darkness, you will find magical wisps yearning for freedom. Upon releasing them, they will empower the monsters in your map, promising more danger but more rewards. You may also...
I just want to say, what kind of crazy asshole is doing that in Tier 17 maps, by the way? Tier 16s, sure. But Tier 17s? Really? That seems nuts, but okay.
find random sentinels on the ground near the start of your maps, from the Sentinel League. They work in a similar way to before. They aren't items, but you can click on them and then they can be activated in that area at any time of your choosing. Upon activation, they will buff monsters around you, increasing their difficulty and rewards. And here's one for those who like to live dangerously. You may occasionally find a reflective mist from the Kalandra League. It has two outcomes. It could drop a jewelry item with randomly enhanced or inverted modifier values, or it can give a reflecting mist item, which can be used on an existing piece of jewelry to perform the same action at a time of your choosing. Good luck!
Wait, what? Oh, okay. Unpredictably reflects a rare or amulet or ring, breaking into two mirrored halves with reflected modifiers. Interesting. Both of those things I can't really comment on because I have no idea about either of those leagues, but...
There's many other small changes to League content. We're removing the
This is just delirium, normal.
first 15 most boring waves of the simulacrum and rebalance
That's such a good idea. So rather than having to do 30 waves of simulacrum, the first 15 of which are just a waste of time, you just start at wave 15. Oh god, that's such a good idea.
its rewards to improve the chances of finding unique jewels. We're also adding some of the beasts from Einhar's Memory of Harvest Beasts to the core pool.
That's
This
cool.
includes the Black Morrigan.
Oh, sweet.
In other news, we've added a set of new chisel types, which can be applied to your maps to get different bonuses. While the Cartographer's Chisel still increases item quantity, there are new ones that now increase rarity, pack size, increased chance for currency items, divination cards, and scarabs.
That's cool.
It's also worth mentioning
good
that
idea.
chisels now apply 20% quality per chisel to white maps, 10% to yellow maps, and 5% to red maps and higher. Unique maps still
Okay.
require the full 20 chisels. Also, only one type of
Sweet.
chisel can be applied to a map at a time.
Right,
During
okay.
3.24, we made a change to Tier 17
Wait, really?
map.
Let me go back here. Only one can be applied at a time. Interesting. I mean, I guess. I would have thought, like... Isn't the benefit of having multiple different chisel types that you could mix and match them to your heart's content? I mean, I guess I'm fine with it. I don't really give a shit. If I'm going for currency, I'm going to use the currency one, right? But...
During 3.24, we made a change to Tier 17 maps that allowed them to be rerolled with Chaos Orbs. We are now expanding the currency types that can be used on them to also include currencies like chisels and Val Orbs. Ultimately,
Jesus.
the only restriction Tier 17 maps now have is that explicit modifiers cannot be removed from them. We have also revised the difficulty of these maps, as they didn't quite hit the mark. The monsters in them now have substantially less life, and deal less damage.
Okay.
Meaning Tier 17 maps now better fit into the progression between Pinnacle and Uber Pinnacle content.
Okay, perfect. Because, alright. I cleared two tier 17s, 2 or 3 tier 17s, I think, by the end of last league. Well, this league, I guess it's still technically this league for another week. But, God, they were hard. Like, the jump up from 16 to 17 was such an enormous jump in difficulty that just felt so crazy. Like 16s, I don't think I died in a 16 since I got my build rolling. But tier 17s, you're like, oh, you just fucked. Sorry. Like, you had to be really careful about modifiers, which I guess you are in 16s too, but nowhere near to the same degree. It was nuts.
Lastly, we've adjusted the drop rate of Valdo's puzzle boxes. Previously, we were adapting its drop rate based on the possible outcomes selected by supporters. So many supporters really wanted Mage Bloods, so the box was hardly dropping. Thus, we have drastically increased the drop rate of the box, but reduced the probability of getting chase unique items from it, like Mage Blood. Overall, we have taken care not to reduce the number of Mage Bloods total in the economy. We figured it was better to have more tickets for fun, rather than barely seeing any boxes in a league.
Makes sense.
We've been hard at work improving the path of...
That makes sense, but at the same time, all of the Valdo maps that had Mage Bloods in them were insanely fucking difficult, and they were fucking... nearly all of them, if not all of them, had Void on them, so if you die, you just don't exist anymore. They delete your character entirely. So, like... it's not like they were easy to get Mage Bloods. Then again, maybe some of them were. Maybe I just never found any. All the ones I think I found like 2 or 3 that had Mage Blood rewards, but I was terrified to run them because they were insanely difficult. Like, just looking at the modifiers, I'm like, well, no, I'm not going to run that. Because if I die, my character gets deleted, for starters. And second of all, like, everything else on there, I just don't think I'll be able to beat it. So, like, I don't know. It doesn't really bother me in the grand scheme of things. It's still better to have more Valdo than not, because they're fun.
of Exile experience on consoles. With native ports for the Xbox Series consoles already being released, and PS5 on the near horizon, the game now takes full advantage of the console hardware. Loading times have been reduced even further, pop-in has been reduced, and textures won't start unloading in heavy scenes.
That's nice.
Furthermore, overall visual fidelity has been improved for all new generation consoles. Path of Exile now uses the highest available resolution textures and water effects. We've installed a new upscaling algorithm that improves the crispness of dynamic resolution, with an additional anti-aliasing pass on top of that. With these upgrades, we also support variable refresh rate TVs and monitors on PlayStation 5 and on all Xbox consoles. In the options, players can now choose which aspect of visual fidelity they want to focus on: resolution, image quality, or target frame rate. In 3.24, we added some new encounters and secrets to the campaign. In Settlers of Kalguur, we're adding even more.
Cool.
We're not going to spoil them all here, but keep an eye out for anything unfamiliar on your adventures. Who knows what you'll find? I mean, I know, but still. There's an underground bunker underneath the refinery, guarded by powerful robots. I wonder what's been hidden away here. How do I unlock this mysterious door? What riches must lay inside? Blighted growths have appeared in the gardens and sewers of San.
Cool.
A vault containing riches can be found in the reliquary. As you might have seen in our teasers, there's a slew of quality of life features we've been working on. Here's a quick summary. You'll no longer need to interact with waypoints to unlock them. You can just walk by and they'll activate automatically.
Thank Christ, that's such a good
When using
change.
keyboard and mouse, you'll be able to pick up items from further away.
Cool.
We're adding static life bars to some bosses. Not all
Fantastic.
bosses will have them just yet, but we'll be adding more over time. You can now see
love
which
it.
divination cards drop in each map by hovering over them on your atlas.
Good.
When you die, you can now resurrect without having to reactivate all your reservation effects, like auras and heralds.
Fantastic.
You can start harvest encounters with just a single action.
Makes sense, it was pointless to do 2 clicks.
The amount of quality provided by currency items like whetstones is now based on the item level, rather than item rarity. Those currencies now apply a 20% quality to very low-level items, with that amount reducing as the item level increases.
Oh, that makes sense, I guess.
Next up, we're going to be talking about our new League supporter packs.
Will I spend money?
Today,
Probably.
we're launching 2 new series of supporter packs, the Paladin and Penance packs. Each tier contains the pack's full face value in points, alongside several exclusive microtransactions. These packs are only available for the duration of the Settlers of Kalguur League and will leave the store forever when it ends. As always, the microtransactions in these packs are purely cosmetic and do not affect your character's power or progression in any way. The
Sad they need
Paladin
to say
series
that,
of
to be
supporter
honest.
packs contains 6 exclusive microtransactions. Adorn your weapon or shield with the Paladin weapon effect.
Oh, that looks cool.
Make a show of leveling up with the Harpy Flyover level up effect.
That's pretty cool too.
Equipping the Divine Paladin armor set will periodically cause slain enemies to be consecrated and laid to rest.
Cool.
This set also comes with a matching back attachment. Both the helmet and back attachment have options to display the radiant glow, or not, you pick. The Divine Judgment finisher effect locks onto unique enemies before obliterating them with a laser from the heavens. May your critical hits resonate across Rayclast with the Cleric's Bell back attachment.
Cool.
Invite your friends to spend a day at the races
that's
in the
cool.
Vasteri Racecourse hideout. Add rowers to the track to race them against each other. Or you can just spectate from the sidelines. The Penance Pack series also has 6 exclusive microtransactions. With the Penance back attachment equipped, a repentant soul is chained to your back and
That is
lashed with
ridiculous.
lightning. Ouch. Place none other than the Trial Master in your hideout and have him comment on your chaos
A classic, but far fairer now than in ancient times.
and Val crafting attempts.
Your luck is over, fool.
He even keeps a record of how many Chaos and
That's
Varlords
pretty
you've used in
cool.
your hideout during the league, or across all leagues. Blood stains your armor the more life you lose when wearing the Acolyte's Penance armor set. The Zealot's Madness portal effect fragments as you near it.
It's pretty cool.
The Cauldron map device boils maps, fragments, and scarabs placed into it, keeping a tally of how many have been thrown into the pot in the current league or across all leagues.
It's also pretty cool.
The Exiled Squire pets follow in your footsteps, hyping you up for battles,
No sweat for you, boss.
Oh, that
providing
one's worth.
pessimistic commentary,
The cycle repeats.
or voicing their disdain for you to bring you down a peg.
About time you kicked the bucket.
He's just a dude.
These packs are now available for purchase on both PC and console, and will remain so during Path of Exile, Settlers of Kalguur. Meanwhile, the Solar and Eldritch packs leave the store forever at the launch of Settlers of Kalguur League, so now's your last chance to purchase them. Thank you so much for your ongoing support.
And the only thing I
Now,
really
we
care
have one
about.
more thing to announce.
Sorry, before he goes on. We're nearly finished. There's one more thing to announce. It could be good. But the only thing I really liked in those packs was the Squire who just talks shit and like hypes you up, depending on how you're going. That's really cool. So if I could buy that separately, maybe I will, but I don't think I can. I think the packs are usually all in one.
Before getting into the Q&A. We are soon going to be running a small closed beta test for Path of Exile 2. We have been taking signups for the Path of Exile 2 beta tests over at pathofexile2.com. We will only be selecting a very limited number of people for this first test, but if you want to make sure that you are considered, then head over to the website and register your email address now.
That was fucking cool. I kind of said everything I needed to say because I was pausing as I was going, so there's nothing a huge amount to add, but having gold is such a huge change to Path of Exile, it's kind of nuts. Like, you don't really think of it all that much, but it is a kind of an insane difference that they have in there, to be honest. Like, how long has this game been going just with trading currency, and now suddenly they're like, yeah, gold, and instant buyouts for currency trade, and all these other fucking... That's a huge amount of changes. Like, holy shit. Anyway, that was my reaction to this. I figured I may as well record the reaction just because within the first 20 seconds I was already surprised. So I decided that maybe I would actually go through and look at this whole thing. I'm happy. I am quite happy thus far. I still don't know what I'm going to play in the league, is the issue. That's the real issue. I don't know what I want to play. Since I've done all these melee changes, I'm kind of pushed towards melee, but at the same time, is it going to be good enough? Who knows? I think maybe, surely by the time I play, because I'll get up a couple of hours later, surely someone's come up with a build that I can just copy at that point. Because the legal launch, I'll wake up the next day, probably, or like halfway through the day, and then I'll jump on and it'll all be good. Because it'll already have been running for like a couple of hours. Therefore, people will be in endgame with a build that I can copy. Anyway, that's going to be it. If you liked the video, please leave a like. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. If you have any suggestions of what I should play, put it in the comment. I'm kind of leaning towards melee now, just because of how many changes they've done. But at the same time, is it actually going to be good? I have my doubts, but at the same time, maybe. Alright. Bye, guys.